Greetings everybody. In the last lesson we looked at creating an inventory, which, as you remember, was a list of weapons that we had in FortNot, and next to them how much the bookies cost for each of those weapons. And we achieved that doing a for loop. Different kind of for loops, we can say a for however many times, but that was a for loop which used the length of a list. So for each item in the list, a value was brought forward. We're going to do the same thing today. Today we're going to create another list in FortNot, which is the leaderboard list. So let me show you first of all what that's going to look like in the end. So if I just run this, we've got the welcome message. And now, do you see how this looks much tidier? We've got an indent at the beginning. Actually, these indents at this stage are called tabs. Tab stop. If you look on your keyboard, you'll see there's a key on the left-hand side near to the Q, which has got one or two directional arrows on it. That's called the tab key. And if you're in Word or any other program and you press that tab key, it will jump over a certain number of spaces. And that looks an awful lot tidier because we've got the numbers in a row, the leader, the grade rankings, we've got the player names, and we've got how many games they've won. So it looks much tidier than what we did last week. That's achieved quite simply by this little tiny bit of code in there. So it's /T. If you notice, that's in speech marks as well. And what /T does, it puts a tab in front of or behind the piece of code that we want to appear on the screen. So this T here represents that space there. This tab represents that space, and that tab represents that space there. So let's get on then and code this actual piece of code so to get the leaderboard going. So starting with the blank screen, obviously. The only thing I want to import in here is time again. So import time. Don't need anything else. I need a little welcome message as usual. Now I'm just going to put, here is the leaderboard, just to save time. Because I like that, it looks like it's loading. I forgot to put the bracket, that's why it put an indent there. I'm going to time.sleep that for 2 seconds. And now there were 3 things on this list. Last time there were only 2 things on the list. This time we want player, we want their rank, and we want how many wins that they've got. So they're the 3 lots of variables in this list. So each of those needs an equals, and then each of those needs to have defined what's going to be in that list. So the first one was somebody called Mixership, great name. Second one was Z rotation. These are actual winners of a certain game that you might have heard of. And the next one is EFGXBL. And close that off with a square bracket. The ranks then are going to be, in fact I've just made a little bit of a mistake there. I've put a curly bracket when it should be a square bracket. The ranks are just simply going to be 1, 2, 3. And the wins, if I said that the first one got 14,519, the second one 10,383, and the third one 9,735. That's their wins. So that's our lists defined already. All we need now then is the for loop, which allows us to get these lists from there looking like a proper list where it says 1, the player, number of wins. 2, the player, number of wins. 3, the player, the number of wins. So 4, I'm going to call it leaderboard. In range, I'm not going to put a range of 3, even though it would be the top 3 every time. One time I might decide to do the top 10, in which case I would just need to add the rest of the player names, the rest of the ranks, and the rest of the wins, and I wouldn't need to change this for loop because I'm doing it by the length. And I could do it by the length of the player name or the rank, not by the, well, by the wins as well if I wanted to. I'm going to do it by rank today. So we've opened 2 brackets, we need to close 2 brackets, colon, and then what do we want it to say? We want it to, first of all, /t to put a tab at the beginning, a comma, and then we want the rank. So we want this first one, in the first instance of the loop, we want that to be printed on the screen down here, tabbed in, and that's coming from the leaderboard. And close the bracket on that one and a comma. For the next one, I want to again tab it. So I've forgotten to put the slash in there. Tab in that one, and then I want the player next. And the players also come from leaderboard. Getting the wrong bracket again, I keep pressing shift. Leaderboard, comma for that one, and then again T, comma, and the last one is wins, and that's coming from leaderboard. And then we've opened 1 round bracket, so we're going to close 1 round bracket. Time to run it and save it. I'm going to call this one leaderboard, and we'll see. As you can see, it's done exactly the same as last time. It's gone through the loop and it said the first one, that's the name, that's the wins. The second one, that's the name, that's the wins. And then third place, that's the name and that's the wins. And that's how to create a nice little list using a for loop and using it with a range and a length of the number of things that are in the range. If I was to now change this code and decide on a 4th place, then I might put in Bradshaw in here, and then I would need to change this to 4th place, and my wins are going to be 32. Not very believable, but let's see if that now picks up on here. So I press F5, say OK. And as you can see, I didn't need to change anything about this for loop because I've already done that in here. I've said whatever the length of that list is, print out this list, the items on this list here. Have fun with that one. Bye bye.